Gratitude is a big topic, and I think we could go a lot of different directions. But when I was looking into some of the teachings Rinpoche has given, it seems like it's been a while since she's talked about gratitude. So I think it'll be a nice review for all of us. So what is gratitude? The first thing I usually do when I don't know what a word means is go to the dictionary. And the definition they list is the quality of being thankful or grateful. And also readiness to show appreciation for and return kindness. And the first part of it was kind of like, yeah, I know that. That one is a little bit self-explanatory, a quality of being thankful or grateful. But the second part was interesting to consider about the relationship between gratitude and kindness and appreciation. Let's see. Gratitude in the context of our spiritual practice is also a state of mind or a cultivated feeling. So it's something that that doesn't necessarily just have to arise on its own. We can create it. We can arise it. And Rinpoche has, I'm going to include a little quote from Satisfied Buddhist on gratitude and thankfulness. I'm not necessarily going to make a distinction between the two of them today. Thankfulness is a higher virtue, a cultivated skill that we experience with our emotions. It's good to feel it, but there is something else that is healing happening between you and the entire world when you express genuine gratitude. There is a special feeling of joyful thankfulness experienced the moment before reaching out toward an object. It can fill you with emotion so big that you might cry for happiness. It could be so strong that you might not be able to contain all of that energy, and the excess overflows in the form of tears. So you can see the different levels. We can look at gratitude on an outer, more ordinary level, and we can look at gratitude from a more inner level. And I was just going to say, well, since we're all practitioners here, we can really dive deep, and I know Sarah isn't, but in another way you are. So I can still feel comfortable saying that. So in this statement, Rinpoche is bringing up the point that it's almost a pre-object feeling. First something arises, and it's right before you reach out and apply it to that object. And that's the gratitude.
Mama?
Yeah.
Could you read the passage one more time?
Sure. And if you want to get it in your notes, you can also Google Dhamma Geshe Rinpoche and gratitude, and it'll pull it up. Thankfulness is a higher virtue, a cultivated skill that we experience with our emotions. It's good to feel it, but there is something else that is healing happening between you and the entire world when you experience genuine gratitude. There is a special feeling of joyful thankfulness experienced the moment before reaching out toward an object that is powerful. It can fill you with emotion so big that you might cry for happiness. It could be so strong that you might not be able to contain all of that energy, and the excess overflows in the form of tears. Has anyone felt that? Is there a time that you can think of feeling that? Do you remember what the circumstances were around it?
I remember it. Well, I don't know if I remember all the circumstances, but I remember many years ago when I started learning about gratitude and the benefits of feeling gratitude for others. And I had heard about a practice where you before you go to sleep at night, you write down like 10 things that you were thankful for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that as I reflected on things that I felt grateful for, and I began to journal them, that there was this increasing, it was like this momentum and this building, and there were higher and higher and higher levels of joy that would come from this expression. And I realized that the more grateful I felt,
the bigger it got.
The easier it would come and the bigger it would get. It was really, really interesting. So I appreciated this quote so much because I could feel that. And I often would just cry, and so I couldn't contain it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Janine. Anyone else? An example that Rinpoche gave was the gratitude experienced toward a spiritual teacher. And she mentioned this in a teaching back in 2004 that, I don't have the specific title, but it was something like Gratitude East and West. But I'm not going to read the whole thing, but she said the feeling was that you're so grateful that you can't even begin to express the gratitude. And the feeling was, how could I ever possibly repay the debt that my kind teacher has shown me? And it's impossible. And she gave the example of it being like someone giving you a nickel. If it would be like if someone was going to give you a nickel and they actually gave you a diamond. That kind of comparison. And I'm going to continue, I'm going to kind of skip around here, but continuing on this kind of train of thought of the difference between gratitude on an outer level and gratitude on an inner level, you can actually experience gratitude more strongly on the inside than on the outside. I heard that in the example you gave, that it was building on the inside. Pema.
It reminds me, we talked a little bit about, and actually Rinpoche is going to come and teach on it, but we talk about appreciating your mother and your relationship to all beings, and one of the steps in there is remembering how they've been kind to you, or appreciating how they've been kind to you, and it makes me think about this thankfulness and gratefulness that we're talking about.
Yeah, remembering their kindness and feeling gratitude for that kindness, and then wanting to repay the kindness. So going back to the original dictionary definition, readiness to show appreciation for and return kindness.
And I have another example, if you want another example.
Sure.
As we're talking about it, the filing system is like opening up the files. Many years ago, I got my master's degree at the University of Louisville, and then I went on to get my PhD. And after I worked for a few years with this wonderful clinical gerontologist, she was the reason I was getting a PhD, because she had a PhD, and I'd been supervised by her, and I so admired her and appreciated her kindness. And what happened was, many years later, I was invited to, I was awarded an alumni award. It's like this very prestigious university-wide award from the University of Louisville. And as I was preparing my acceptance speech, I started thinking about this woman. And I had applied to one PhD program. It was the only one I wanted to go to, and they didn't accept me because I had really bad GRE scores. But I had, 4.0, excellent letters, all this other stuff. And, she heard about this, and she, unbeknownst to me, she got on the phone and called the director of the PhD program in Seattle and convinced him that he was making a terrible mistake And all of a sudden I knew I was admitted into this program. Something just out of the kindness of her heart, she made the extra step to look out for me and to, really do that. And as I was preparing this acceptance speech, I was reflecting on this, and I was getting more and more like, oh my gosh. And so when I gave my acceptance speech, people in the audience, everyone was crying because of the gratitude I was feeling toward this woman, and they all felt it. It was really, really...
really powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chini. That's a wonderful example.
Yeah.
Tikchen.
Your statement, yourself, plus what you read, Robert Emoons' statement, saying that, it's a cultivated state of mind. I recall her saying, and I've read it as well, that we cultivate states of mind, and eventually they become spontaneous. Mm-hmm. So I think nothing would please our teacher more than to see that we no longer need to cultivate gratitude. It's just
spontaneous.
Spontaneous, yeah.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Mm-hmm. But for those of us that we think, I can't arise gratitude, or I'm not a naturally grateful person, there is hope. Pema.
I remember the files are opening this to me.
We're going into the gratitude room.
I remember being on retreat, and one of the practitioners was going to offer up, she had asked Rinpoche if she could offer a mala for sale to pay for her retreat, because she was having some financial challenges, actually paying for even the basic part of food and lodging and things like that. And I wanted to match that by offering another mala. And when I started to talk to the group about offering this mala, something just completely came over me, and I don't think I identified it at the time, but I was so deeply appreciative of what this person had contributed to our community, and I wanted to return the kindness by offering a mala. And I think something came over me, and I may have even started crying when I was trying to talk about this. When I was definitely turned around and everybody was completely quiet and people were crying. And I think it was really, now that I think about it, I think it was just the gratitude of, wanting to support, appreciating her support on the path and wanting to support her on the path.
So there's something about gratitude that is contagious.
Yeah.
And actually, in one of the quotes that I found, this wasn't Rinpoche, but there was someone else who talked about, this was Edward Hayes. I don't know who Edward Hayes is, but he had some good ideas.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you, Edward. Perpetual gratitude toward people around us initiates habits of thankful prayer. It also starts a chain reaction of giving thanks till our friends and loved ones and our whole world becomes imbued in grateful living, which is what I'm hearing from the examples that you guys are giving.
Will you read it again?
Yeah. Perpetual gratitude toward people around us initiates habits of thankful prayer. It also starts a chain reaction of giving thanks till our friends and loved ones and our whole world becomes imbued in grateful living. Tikchen.
I know that there's a fair amount of research and discussion in mental health circles, whether it's in nursing or I would imagine social work, I don't know, about emotional contagion, and often it refers to anxiety and how contagious it is. But I think we stop to forget that positive emotions can be contagious.
Yeah.
We've heard so many examples of arising the whole energetic state of mind of gratitude is catching, and what a wonderful way to impact your environment in the world around you.
What a lovely way to be a blessing to those around you. All right.
Keep going with that.
I know. I'm like, we should probably move on. I think we have a good sense of what gratitude is. So So if there was any question about why we should practice gratitude, let's talk about the benefits of gratitude. Gratitude has actually been very well researched, especially in the last decade. I found quite a lot of references from a man named Robert Emoons, who is considered to be a scientific expert on gratitude. And so some of these reasons for practicing gratitude come from his research. And some of them will also later on come from the Buddhist perspective and Rinpoche's teachings. So why practice gratitude? Gratitude brings us happiness. And I noticed when Jugne made the description for this teaching, it had something about, well, does happiness bring gratitude, or it was Teikchen? Okay. Does happiness cause gratitude, or does gratitude cause happiness? And the research really shows that gratitude brings us happiness. I mean, happiness can bring us gratitude, but practicing gratitude has been found to be one of the most reliable methods for increasing happiness and life satisfaction. They've also found that it boosts feelings of optimism, joy, enthusiasm, and other positive emotions. And gratitude has also been found to reduce anxiety and depression, like the mental health you mentioned, Teikchen. It's good for our bodies. Studies by Emoons and some of his colleagues suggested that gratitude strengthens the immune system, lowers blood pressure, reduces symptoms of illness, and makes us less bothered by aches and pains. It actually, interestingly enough, also encourages us to exercise and take better care of ourselves.
It hasn't worked there. I don't know. I wasn't a part of the study, so.
No. Grateful people sleep better. It makes us more resilient. It's been found to help people recover from traumatic events, such as PTSD related to war. It can strengthen relationships, both with our friends and our partners. And Emoons said here, when partners feel and express gratitude for each other, they become more satisfied with their relationship. Gratitude may also encourage a more equitable division of labor between partners. Gratitude promotes forgiveness. Grateful people have been found to be more helpful, altruistic, and compassionate, which again goes along with recognizing the kindness of others and wanting to repay that kindness. Gratitude isn't just good for adults, it's good for kids. One study said that when 10 to 19-year-olds practiced gratitude, they reported greater life satisfaction and more positive emotions, and they felt more connected to their community. And some schools have actually implemented gratitude curriculums. And the studies that they did around that said that it makes students feel better about their school. It makes teachers more satisfied and accomplished, less emotionally exhausted, and possibly reduces teacher burnout. So there's a lot of ordinary reasons. Teikchen.
Well, on that same note, a couple of years ago when I was teaching in an on-ground school of nursing, one of the other faculty members and I discussed difficulties that we were seeing common in the students who were coming through, and it wasn't just us, we were hearing it from faculty all across the country, is these student nurses were gripey and complaining and negative attitude, and it seemed to be a generational thing. And so she looks at me and she says, "You're the most spiritual person I know. How are we going to fix this?" So I looked at the Buddhist teachings and I looked at the research literature, especially stuff coming out of HeartMath, that one of the safest, most transformational emotions they had studied was appreciation, which is very much gratitude focused, and have focused a lot of their interventions on teaching people to arise appreciation and apply it. So we implemented that quarter appreciation rounds in the clinical group. So there's 8 students. And I had them 2 days a week for 10 weeks. And at the end of every clinical day, we would begin clinical rounds where we'd get as a group and discuss what had happened with appreciation rounds. And the rule was you had to say something you appreciated. It couldn't be what you said yesterday or the day before. It had to be sincere. It didn't matter it didn't matter if it had anything to do with your clinical day. It could be your family, your roommates, you found a parking place. It didn't matter. One sincere thing you appreciated, which meant by the end of the quarter they had to say 20 different things in their life they appreciated. After a couple weeks, if I forgot, they reminded me.
Oh, okay.
And then the class moved on and they were split up into different clinical groups the next quarter. And then this faculty member who I've been talking with this about originally was the course supervisor for that next class. And so she was making her rounds to the clinical instructors, how is it going in the different places, and this instructor says, the strangest thing this quarter, there are 3 of my students, and at the end of every clinical day, they go around to the nurses who they've been taking care of their patients, the patients and the families, and they thank them for the opportunity to care for them. I've never seen anything like this. And she's like, well, who were they? And she found out who they were, and sure enough, those 3 had been in that clinical group the day before. And so I left the position, but I kind of wished if we could implement this in any of the curriculum, by the time they graduated, not only what kind of nurses would they be, but how would it have transformed their entire life? Simply expressing gratitude 2 days a week.
Yeah, such a simple intervention.
It really is very powerful.
Yeah.
It's quite
like a drop in a lake, or throwing a rock into a lake and seeing the ripples go out.
right. I kind of wanted to do research on it, but never got that far.
Dang.
I know.
Well, there's still time.
I'm doing other things, but maybe I can persuade someone else to do it.
You can find someone's ear. Thank you, Tig-Chun.
As I look across the room at the other researcher.
All right. So, from a Buddhist perspective, I want to share a verse from one of the sutras. I'm going to try and pronounce this. It's the Anguttara Nikaya Sutra. And this was the Buddha. There are 2 persons who are rare in the world. Which 2? First, the person who volunteers to help others selflessly. And second, the one who is grateful and helps in return. There are 2 persons who are rare in the world. Which 2? First, the person who volunteers to help others selflessly. And second, the one who is grateful and helps in return. So here, the Buddha is saying, how rare is it to find someone who is truly grateful for the help he or she receives? Gratitude is a source of merit, which we all definitely want, or good karma. It's a sign that we're living in alignment with the Dharma. It's an antidote for one of the 3 poisons, which is greed. And we know that greed is not such a fun thing in itself, but it's also an obstacle to enlightenment. And we live in a world of grasping and attachment and materialism. And gratitude practice can help shift us into focusing what we have now, rather than what we want or what we need or what we don't have, or on and on and on. Gratitude can be a long life practice. Back in 2011, Rinpoche said that having gratitude and appreciation for long life validates our potential for long life. Gratitude is powerfully purifying. And let's see, so this is another quote from Rinpoche here. This state of mind cleans you right down to your core. This is the purification that must go on to do a high-quality practice. No one need know that you have a core of idealism that is unshakable. Your sense of gratitude, your sense of purity is right there so strongly. The higher the level of the practice, the more gentle and the more innocent the practitioner becomes. And the energy of the experience of gratitude will allow purification to take place. So on that note, how do we cultivate gratitude?
It's interesting when you think about the different purification practices and the different outcomes in the different methods. This is really something.
Yeah. Wow. Just the last sentence or the whole thing?
Maybe the whole thing.
Okay, that's okay.
Still in mommy mode, sorry.
That's okay. This state of mind cleans you right down to your core. This is the purification that must go on to do a high-quality practice. No one need know that you have a core of idealism that is unshakable. Your sense of gratitude, your sense of purity is right there so strongly. The higher the level of the practice, the more gentle and the more innocent the practitioner becomes. The energy of the experience of gratitude will allow purification to take place.
And who said that?
Rinpoche.
Oh.
So I think, and I've got a sheet that has 10 ways to become more grateful that I'll give you guys at the end, but probably the simplest way to become more grateful is to just, in whatever way you need to, think about what you're grateful for. And most of these examples focus on that idea. Keep a gratitude journal and record 3 or 5 things for which you're grateful every day. And that's similar to what Shani was doing. You can write a gratitude letter. Think of an important person in your life who you've never properly thanked. And there's actually structures for this. I didn't write them down for today, but there's specific questions, like what you're grateful for and specifics, Pema.
There's just there's a little video on a study going around the internet right now about this particular technique. The study was that they asked people to come in and sit down and do an interview or something, and they asked them who is the person who is most influential in their life.
Oh.
And once they had it in mind, they asked them to write them a letter.
Oh. Yeah.
Just as if they were writing to them, write them a letter about what they appreciated. And then when they were done, they came back in the room with a phone and said,
call them.
We're going to invite you to call them and actually read them the letter right now. And there's an amount of happiness that is measurable happiness that's gained from thinking about and writing the letter. Mm-hmm. But there's an additional level of or a greater amount of or incidence of happiness
gained by saying
that. People who actually called and actually read the letter to who are able to do so. Some of them, the person had passed away, wasn't accessible for some reason.
Yeah, so if you can, tell the people in your life how grateful you are for them and for, what they've done. Savor the good in your life. Don't just gloss over the beauty and pleasures that come your way. Another thing that Rinpoche had said at some point, I don't have the specific date, but she said that what we have gratitude for and appreciate stays with us longer. If you don't appreciate a particular person, don't expect them to stay around a long time. And if it's a really good friend, they might still stay, but definitely tell the people in your life that you appreciate them and repay that kindness. Focus on intentions. When you receive a gift, or when something good happens to you in general, consider how someone tried on purpose to bring that goodness into your life. even at a cost to themselves. And research has suggested that this can go a long way toward cultivating an attitude of gratitude, both in children and adults. And along with that, teach gratitude to children. Recognize the positive in your life. Mm-hmm. And this is along with, again, thinking about about 3 good things that happen to you every day. This is a quote from Sarah Brethnick. You simply will not be the same person 2 months from now after consciously giving thanks each day for the abundance that exists in your life. And you will have set in motion an ancient spiritual law. The more you have and are grateful for, the more will be given to you. I don't know if I believe the last part, but I really like the beginning, that it will change you. The gratitude practice really can change you profoundly.
I do think it could result in more, because when you are grateful, you create the karma to be grateful.
That's true.
You know, and it's a very logical conclusion.
And also, you'd be content with what you have and not grasping after,
this is true.
Receiving things, and therefore.
There's nothing to constipate the energy of receiving what you need, like grasping after. I don't know, it's graphic, but it's understandable.
Pema.
Well, I was thinking that I also had a question about the more will be given to you, because I almost feel like it's the more that you'll attract.
Yeah.
Actually, if you consciously try to attract something, that's not what we're talking about here, but if you're really just sincerely grateful for things, it's magnetizing in a way, and it's magnetizing to the resources that you need in order to practice and follow the path. Yeah.
So it sounds like we kind of agree with the concept, but maybe not the wording.
Well, probably what you're finding issue with is that if somehow an individual hears that, and then their motivation becomes, I want more,
changes.
So then I'm going to be grateful, then it
would pollute it.
Correct, it would pollute it, yeah.
It wouldn't be clean gratitude.
Yeah.
But does gratitude cleanse the motivation
Mm.
then?
I think that's possible.
It
If
is.
you really
Even if it's a selfish motivation?
Yeah, maybe over time, if you continue working on gratitude, it would go back and change that faulty motivation.
Yeah, because authentic gratitude couldn't coexist with, the motivation to just want to get something from it. Yeah, so.
But it would be kind of a fake it until you make it thing.
Yeah.
So just tell greedy people that being thankful gives you more stuff?
Well,
if you start off thinking that, I know that this isn't sincere, so I might as well give up. I think Ron made the point earlier that, there's hope for those of us who don't do it spontaneously. We know that if we really work on it, that things will change.
Yeah. I think I agree. These practices are not designed for those who are already perfect. They're designed for people who are practicing.
So you might say the more sincere the effort, the more effective. But even a small amount of effort for any motivation will start to create that pattern. I think we see that in loving kindness meditation when people feel like they're having difficulty generating loving kindness. Even if they just make effort, over time it becomes
easier and more natural.
And in laughter yoga, they say you don't actually have to be even truly laughing to get the benefits of laughter yoga. You could just pretend to laugh and get a lot of the benefits.
And usually by the end, you are actually genuinely laughing. But even if it's just laughing at the people around you looking so silly. All right. Let's see, so where were we? We were on recognize the positive. I want to share another quote from Rinpoche from Satisfied Buddhist. Create respect for gratitude without arrogance and hold a desire to experience thankfulness. We want to be close to healthy attitudes such as compassion and gratitude, which will create happiness and keep us safe from harm again and again. Thankfulness contains a powerful sense of appreciation, which allows us to open up to wonderment. The practice of remembering thankfulness means you're receptive to wonderment and awe like you were when you were young. Enlightened beings and advanced meditators deliberately cultivate a youthful sense of wonderment, a sophisticated kind of awe. Again, we see these interconnections between gratitude and other states of mind.
It'd be interesting to contemplate the states of mind associated with gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think we've listed a number of them. We've got kindness, joy, optimism, idealism. Here she's talking about wonderment. But yeah, it could definitely be a great practice for cogitation, meditation. All right. So we were talking about how to cultivate gratitude. Think about our own mortality. It makes us more grateful for life. And another study that was done found that praying more often increases gratitude.
Did it say anything about how or why? Or?
About how praying more increases gratitude?
Yeah.
No. I think if you do, well, I was going to give the example of a cogitation meditation that typically does arise gratitude, which is, contemplating precious human rebirth. Typically, that'll arise, a powerful state of appreciation for, the precious human life that we have the fortune to have. But I was just thinking, even prayer and meditation in general, if you're...
I would think contemplating the kindness of others too.
Yeah, that's true.
If you choose just even one person and think about their kindness, the practice of doing that
would arise gratitude.
Yeah, and then you can, and just think with how many billion people in the world, you'll never run out of, objects of meditation.
or loving kindness meditation. Yeah, there's probably quite a few different kinds of prayer or meditation that would produce that. I was trying to think if there's an example that wouldn't, but maybe...
Gimme kind of prayer.
Yeah, that's true. If we're going to look at that. Or I was thinking maybe just breath meditation might not, but...
Well, I was thinking we did prayers today, right? Prayers for world peace today. So I was thinking, do I have feelings of gratitude that are associated with
the prayers that we did today?
Prayers for world peace, yeah. And I wasn't necessarily correlating it right away, but I do think that there are lines in those prayers that evoke a sense of gratitude, even wishing for others.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually grateful to be doing that prayer and participating in that prayer. So I think
and just reflecting on it now too, I was thinking how grateful I am to be in a time and place that is safe and free of war, and that we have the opportunity to do these prayers for others that are not so fortunate. So I think, definitely.
I think there's also a sense of gratitude for the author of each prayer.
Oh, yeah.
They were able to arise such beautiful wishes for others that you want to share them. So.
Yeah, that's true. And just yesterday, Pema was commenting about how the posts on Facebook that seem to be the most popular are the ones on the prayers for world peace. So, all right. So, precious human rebirth. A prayer that is attributed to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Every day, think as you wake up. Today I am fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life. I am not going to waste it. I am going to use all my energies to develop myself, to expand my heart out to others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I am going to have kind thoughts toward others. I am not going to get angry or think badly about others. I am going to benefit others as much as I can. And I know, I was just thinking, that's definitely a prayer that evokes gratitude. All right. And I was trying to stay focused on the positive elements that we often feel grateful for. But also, as we progress along the path, we can embrace kind of another form of gratitude, which is gratitude for our challenges and adversity in life. Because often it's from these difficulties that we evolve the most. One Thai meditation teacher, Ajahn Chan, has said, which has more value in your life, where you have grown more and learned more? Okay, let's see. I'm going to try again. Which has had more value in your life, where you have grown more and learned more, where you have become more wise, where you have learned patience, understanding, equanimity, and forgiveness? In your hard times or the good ones?
Hard times.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Elizabeth
Shani.
Kubler-Ross talked about this in one of her books. She said that, if you imagine, if you were sitting in a beautiful garden and someone, brought you food and drink and there were beautiful flowers all around and birds singing and your life was like this, it was always like this, how much would you grow?
Yeah.
And she said it's through these experiences in our life that challenge us that really are the gifts and that we really want to be grateful for, because then we actually have something where we can move forward and grow and learn and develop.
Yeah. It also sounds like the difference between the God realm and the human realm.
Yeah.
In the God realm, well, let's say the God realm, assuming you're not in a pure land, the God realm, you're, experiencing pleasure and bliss and happiness, and you have no troubles, and you're happy. Well, what happens at the end of your life? You haven't gained any merit. You haven't learned anything. And here in the human realm, we say, well, you've got just enough difficulty to realize there's a problem and just enough leisure to do something about it. Yeah. So we can make effort and learn from our challenges. And even though we have difficulties and our life isn't always mango smoothies and bonbons, we can change profoundly. And our challenges are often our greatest teachers, or our treasures of patience. All right, so I think I'm gonna hand this out now. So this is the handout of 10 ways to be more grateful. So I'm not going to go over this in too much depth, but again, keep a gratitude journal. Remember the bad. So in addition to thinking about all the good things, consider the hard times you've experienced in the past. Ask yourself the 3 questions. What have I received from? What have I given to? What troubles and difficulty have I caused? That's kind of an interesting one. Learn prayers of gratitude. And we're going to do a little prayer of gratitude as well. Come to your senses. Experience through your senses. Use visual reminders. I kind of like this, that the 2 primary obstacles to gratefulness are forgetfulness and lack of mindful awareness. That's true, because we do a gratitude round at our weekly meeting, and we get to the meeting and we're like, sometimes. So it can be hard to remember if you're not making effort throughout your days. Pema?
I think there's one of our residents decided to use Post-its as a reminder, I think, one time. And I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth or something, and there's a little heart on a Post-it, and it said "give" in it.
Oh.
And I was just I felt gratitude for sharing the process of this visual reminder or this mindfulness practice of seeing a little Post-it note.
Thank you, Pema. Make a vow to practice gratitude. That makes sense. If you make a definitive plan or vow to actually do something, you're more likely to do it. Watch your language. Go through the motions again. Fake it until you make it. Think outside the box. Again, look for new situations and circumstances to feel grateful. All right. Any, Pema?
Yeah, I think it's one of this number 9, it says go through the motions, but in more detail here it says grateful emotions include smiling, saying thank you and writing letters of gratitude. Mm-hmm. And people actually, one of the things that I've noticed is people don't write handwritten notes anymore. And one of the things that we do is we don't do it for everything, but at Joyful Path we will write a handwritten thank you note to people from time to time. And I think that it's pretty memorable.
It is. It is. I was just looking at that too, and even saying thank you. Often we say thank you, and it can be kind of a empty statement, but it can also be kind of a cue to arise that feeling of gratitude and really feel thankful.
Yeah, at the end of the yoga healing program, I was so moved. At the end, it was really beautiful. The monastics had made malas to share with everyone, and I remember when I went up, and Jugne looked at me and handed me the certificate, and he said, and I could feel from his heart the sincerity of his words. Thank you so much for the effort you put into being here and all that you've done.
Yeah.
I could really feel it. It wasn't at all empty, and it really touched my heart. It was, so it makes a big difference.
It does.
And a lot of times people will say thank you, and there's no feeling. And I think when we express with sincerity, we really are touching the hearts of others, and they often will,
they'll feel it.
Yeah. So thank you for pointing it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Pema.
I'm finding as a parent, and this may be a little bit off topic, but I'm finding that when I clue my kids, remember, say thank you, and they say thank you, and then or somebody else says thank you to them, they forget the part of you're welcome. So many people can't accept the gratitude back. And when you genuinely do something for them and they say thank you, it's like okay, yeah. It's so many times people can't do that, and I'm even now I find myself, all right, I'm going to consciously say you're welcome. I have to make effort to do that just to.
That's a good practice.
It is. Just trying to get my kids to say you're welcome more. They're too confused sometimes, but
Yeah, that's something I've been working on too, because my work outside of this is as a telephone triage nurse, and so I give people advice over the phone or make appointments for them or whatever they need, and they'll always say thank you at the end, and my tendency is usually to say, oh, no problem, because that's my job. Uh-huh. But you're welcome is often generally better. It feels better to the person you're speaking with.
I found myself saying, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just that would, I just noticed recently that that's just coming spontaneously. I I said that like 10 times yesterday, I gotta find something else to say, but it's what came,
Yeah, and it's more, it probably feels more alive than you're welcome, because you're welcome can almost be a little bit of a courtesy.
Yeah.
Teichin.
In Spanish, the cultural response to thank you is de nada, or nada, which is, oh, it was nothing, it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're not the only, culturally that can become. So I was going to say a nicer response would be, it was my pleasure, but Chini also
gave us that,
experienced that. But I think if we, rather than feeling bad, we say, oh, it was nothing, because that some cultures that's the way to respond, then we can actively cultivate a more warm response, as you were suggesting.
Yeah. Thank you, Teichin. Pema.
I'm recalling, and I don't know how it was exactly expressed, but the first quote that you shared from Rinpoche about gratitude was, at the very end of the quote, was speaking something about it heals something between you and the world. And when somebody is, I would think from that, when somebody's expressing gratitude toward me or a thank you toward me, that could be a very healing experience for them.
Yeah.
In an interaction in the world. And if we say no, or deny that connection, or deny that, I kind of want to say connection, because there's a kind of connection there by saying, oh no, nothing. If it's not accepted, then to me it just doesn't, if I imagine it, doesn't feel as healing to me.
Yeah.
And so I think saying you're welcome or it's my pleasure accepts that expression of gratitude and allows the work of healing between the person and the world, or the person and others, to continue farther than it would have been able to go if it was just sort of denied or shut down.
Yeah.
I'm imagining.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it also caused me to think about how in the Tibetan system, often if someone makes an offering or does something in order to generate merit, it was considered, the other person didn't say thank you because it could negate the merit. I was just thinking about that and how that would play into this.
But Rinpoche is correct.
Yeah.
She said, no, you do say thank you. You
Yeah.
just don't profusely thank them to the point that their merit is depleted.
Yeah.
But you still say thank you.
Oh yeah, and I know Rinpoche has made that correction for us, but I was just thinking about in the Tibetan system how that was in place. It's really interesting how this plays out in different cultures. Dinima.
For me, it connects another virtue, what gratitude being, it raises a higher level of being, but then generosity. So you're welcome, those two between gratitude and generosity, they start to get handed back and forth. The more you're willing to give, the more you notice that you've already received, that those two, the perfection then of generosity gets linked.
Yeah, and that also kind of brings me back to the verse from the sutra from the Buddha, that the and how rare is it to find two people, one that'll give selflessly and one that'll experience gratitude and wish to repay the kindness. So again, we see the connection between the generosity and gratitude. All right. Anything anyone else wants to share?
Bring it all around.
I know. So let's go ahead and say this prayer of gratitude. And we don't know the author of this, but let's see how this goes. Be thankful that you don't already have everything you desire. If you did, what would there be to look forward to? Be thankful when you don't know something, for it gives you the opportunity to learn. Be thankful for the difficult times. During those times you grow. Be thankful for your limitations. because they give you opportunities for improvement. Be thankful for each new challenge, because it will build your strength and character. Be thankful for your mistakes. They will teach you valuable lessons. Be thankful when you're tired and weary, because it means you've made a difference. It is easy to be thankful for the good things. A life of rich fulfillment comes to those who are also thankful for the setbacks. Gratitude can turn a negative into a positive. Find a way to be thankful for your troubles, and they can become your blessings.
I want to modify it.
Yeah.
What do you want to modify it to?
Well, I want to modify, a few things. One is, be thankful when you're tired and weary, because it means you've made a difference. I think for those of us on the Bodhisattva path, that may not be true or relevant to our experience.
I don't know. I was thinking that it could be because, for example, if you do, a whole day of Dharma service, like hauling logs out of a basement, and the end of the day comes and you're sore and tired.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you can do it with joy, and it doesn't happen that way.
But I think that learning spiritual, practicing in the path and developing spiritual path means that you're working on your edge, and sometimes you're going to get tired and weary because, there are many people on the path who aren't enlightened or don't have the final breakthroughs, and they're going to continue to work on this edge.
Yeah.
Making more effort, being stronger and making more effort than they've ever made before, and then finding out, sort of where they're at.
Yeah. And there was actually, this reminded me of another quote that I was going to share, but I skipped over. But the end of it was, it was attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson, but it was, cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you and to give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude. So it leaves room for those more difficult things that you think, even those things, have merit in this way. You can feel grateful for them because they've resulted in change. Hema.
But another way I was thinking about this prayer is, I had a similar response to Chanita, and wanted it to change. Because I was thinking, sometimes when we see, especially translations from other languages, a lot of times it's in the you.
It should say.
But
Yeah.
when we change it to I am thankful, when I don't know something, or it gives me the opportunity to learn, I am thankful for the difficult times, because during those times I grow.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking that too when I was reading it. That it is more powerful when you change the you to me or I. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I would have to agree with Ginny on the be thankful when you're tired and weary, because it means you've made a difference. You can become tired and weary from doing nothing.
Or having agenda.
That's true.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. Yeah,
Maybe
that is
talks
true.
about burnout, but when we have agenda about how things should be, that we can get really tired and because we're trying to control something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure it could be helpful to people.
Yeah.
I love this prayer, but I read that one.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting.
It is. You can,
But
you can look at it a number of
balance
ways.
teaches us something.
Yeah.
There's still something to learn when we're trying to balance.
Yeah, and still we continue to practice. Shall we dedicate? May my capacity for compassion be infinite. I dedicate these efforts to complete and total enlightenment, so that I may be of benefit to all sentient beings. May it be so.